Hello everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to annihilate your foes with Euporia. It's a weapon that has a super awesome special ability, so let's go ahead and hop on into it. Typically the problem with holy builds is that usually a lot of bosses have resist for them, so it takes quite a lot of holy damage to overcome this. Luckily in patch 1.13, Euporia received some pretty nice buff which helps accomplish this. So Euporia's ability is called Luster. You need to hit things a few times within a 10-second window. This will charge it up. Once this ability is charged up, you can use the special ability to unleash a blast of holy light in a beam at an enemy. It's very similar to a holy comet azure. But you need to make sure this thing has two tiers. Being fully charged will make it last longer. If you're only half charged, it won't last as long, and it gets brighter and brighter as you are more and more charged. You can still use the special ability on this uncharged weapon, and it does a whirlwind attack with it. Ideally, you actually want to be next to the boss when the beam is going off because the whirl of the weapon will also hit it. Now keep in mind that is not always possible, but if it is possible, you're fighting like a big, slower boss, then it'll actually help a lot. If you're fighting something that's really fast, you're going to find it really hard to land that little whirl on them because once you get close, it'll be easy for them to move out of the way of the beam, whereas if you're farther away, it's a little bit harder. Euporia is a weapon that unfortunately is going to be more of a New Game Plus weapon because you can only get it at the end of the DLC. So if you haven't finished the base game, you'll be able to use it for that. But other than that, this really is most likely going to end up just being a New Game Plus weapon. Alright, so to get Euporia, start at the Spiral Rise and just follow my path here. Now, for stats, you're going to want to have like 45 Vigor, 20 Mind, 25 Endurance, 16 Strength, 48 Dex, 60 Faith, and then I leave Intelligence at 10 and Arcane at 10, and it also is going to depend on what class you're playing, but ideally this is going to be around the stats that you're going to want to have for this. You need to have 16 Strength and 16 Dex just to be able to wield it, along with 24 Faith just to have it working like fully functionally. But after that, you can adjust the stats however you see fit. This is just what I am currently doing. I know some people probably want to have more vigor and stuff like that, so feel free to drop the dex because the dex scaling on it honestly isn't very high, so you're not going to lose as much attack power as you would think by maybe moving some of the dex over to vigor or over to mind or over to endurance, depending on what you were trying to do. So now to finish out this run, there's going to be a pretty big enemy down here. Just run past him. That dude will mess you up if you try to fight him. I guess you probably kill him, but he is a pretty strong enemy, so I generally just run past him because he's kind of willing to fight, and then it'll be on this dead body in here through these doors. A cool thing to note is that if you do get two of these and power stance them, once you get Lustrous on one, it'll actually go ahead and put it on the other. However, whenever you use the special attack, it will consume the Lustrous on both. Since this is a faith build, you can also utilize various incantations to help if bosses are resistant to holy. I like to use things like Frozen Lightning Spear, Multi-Layered Rings of Light, and Pest Threads personally. Use the seal that corresponds to whatever type of incantation you're using. So if it's a Godslayer magic, use a Godslayer seal. If it's a type of incantation that does not have a seal associated with it, using the Erdtree seal is fine. Because we can attack so fast with this ability, and we also use a pretty nice special attack, I like to go Shard of Alexander for a 15% damage boost to the weapon skill, Millicent's Prosthesis for an attack power boost with a dexterity boost on top of that, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia for another attack power boost, and then you can go either the Two-Handed Sword Talisman if you would like more damage on top of that. Keep in mind that the Two-Handed Sword Talisman boosts two-handed weapons by 15%, but it does not boost the weapon skill by 15%. Rotten Wing Sword Insignia is going to increase your attack power on successive hits, just like Millicent's Prosthesis. So both of these are going to be super awesome. And then if you are looking to be a little bit more tanky because you're having trouble with how much damage you're taking, then you can use the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman for a nice physical damage reduction boost since this is an up-close and personal build. If you're missing Millicent's Prosthesis, or Rotten Wing Sword, or any of these, you can also swap them out with Sacred Scorpion Charm or Twin Blade Talisman, as I know that in order to get both Millicent's Prosthesis and the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, you're going to have to do Millicent's questline twice. Shard of Alexander is another one you have to do a questline for. You have to do the Warrior Jar Shard for that, so that these are going to take you to kind of the end of the, or I guess towards the end of the base game in order to really finish these, because you have to make it all the way to the Halig Tree. And also the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman is also going to be inside the Halig Tree, But alternatively to that one, you can get the lesser version that is just right behind the Beast Sanctum in Caelid. You just have to drop down. It's kind of a weird jump. You might die a couple times, but all you have to do is drop down behind that, and you can get a lesser version of that as well. So those are 3 options if you are missing any of those talismans. Also, you get the Sacred Scorpion Charm from an invader at the Smoldering Church in Caelid. It's over towards the entrance of Caelid. The only incantations that you're really going to use, aside from offensive ones that you prefer, are going to be Golden Vow, which you get at the Corpse Stench Shack in Mount Gelmer, and then the other one is going to be Flame Grant Me Strength, which you get in Fort Gale, in between 2 flame chariots. It's actually outside of that castle, behind it, so don't try to go inside of it. Just run up to the left of it and run around behind it. And then alternatively, you can also get the Sword of Light if you have killed the final boss of the DLC. This will give you a holy damage boost. But in order to get that, obviously you'll need to have killed the final boss of the DLC, turn in its remembrance, and otherwise you can just keep using Flame Grant Me Strength, because while you will not benefit from the fire affinity attack power buff, you will benefit from the physical attack power buff that it gives. For armor, you can really wear whatever. Technically, if you want the most attack power, you're going to want to wear the Rakshasa. You can also go Rakshasa with the Fire Knight's Helm. To get Rakshasa, you just have to go to the Eastern Nameless Mausoleum. In the DLC, you will need to have made it to Shadow Keep in order to access that, but if you go through the Church District entrance to get to Shadow Keep, you can make it there without having to fight any bosses, aside from the Rakshasa boss that drops it. Fire Knight's Helmet, you also can get just from farming Fire Knights in Shadow Keep. You just keep killing them until they drop one. But that'll give you a nice HP boost, equip load boost from the Fire Knight's Helmet, while on top of that giving you a 6% attack power buff. Keep in mind the Rakshasa does increase your damage taken, so if you're using this with the Sacred Scorpion Charm or something like that, you might find that your damage being taken is increased, so you really are going to want to make sure you have like the Dragon Crush Shield Talisman or something like that on to negate that. But otherwise, you will need to kill the Golden Hippopotamus to get the Rakshasa set. But you can really wear whatever you want because it's an 8% attack power boost and it makes you take more damage with the Rakshasa set. So you alternatively could also use like the Death Knight set. That's a set that you can get as well. It'll increase like, Ancient Dragon Lightning attack power and stuff like that. So you can just go find an armor set that boosts, whatever incantation you're using if they have one, or try to do something like that alternatively if you don't want to increase how much damage you're taking. For the Crystal tier, you do have a couple options. I always will typically go for the Opaline Hard tier. The reason for this is that you get a bunch of damage negation. Then you can also go the Holy Shroud Crack tier to increase the holy damage, or you can go the Thorny Crack tier. So this is going to increase your damage done with successive hits up to 20%. So honestly, it just really depends on what you're looking for. If you go the Thorny Crack tier, you're going to have more upfront damage on your auto attacks, which ultimately is going to be what you're going to be doing more than using the weapon special, because you do have to charge up the weapon special in order to use it. So I do recommend going the Thorny Crack tier, but I threw the Holy Shrouded one in here because Thorny Crack tier is gotten into consecrated snowfields. So that means, again, you have to make it pretty far into the base game in order to get that. So on the off chance you don't have that yet, I went ahead and threw another option. The Holy Shroud Crack tier just drops off of an Erdtree avatar that's in Northeast Lernia of the Lakes. And then the Thorny Crack tier drops off of an Erdtree avatar that's located in consecrated snowfield. So those are going to be some options. And then Opaline Hard tier actually drops off of the Erdtree avatar that is over by Fort Faroth. If you go to the Fort Faroth side of Grace and just run towards the tree, you'll actually find a Spirit Spring you can drop down on and then just run around the tree, and the boss will be right there for you to fight and get that. For Spirit Summons, you can really use whatever you prefer, but obviously using things like Mimic tier is going to be better. You get that in Nokron. Divine Bird Warrior Ornis is found in Raw Base after going up a Spirit Spring. You can get that one very early into the DLC, and it's also extremely good. And then Golemsmith Telu is found in Raw Base as well in Telu's Ruined Forge. This one has an incredible amount of health and is super tanky and has some really nice range attacks. So those are going to be the three that I would recommend if you are going to want to use a Spirit Summon. However, if you have a favorite one, feel free to use it. Just remember that this build does require you to hit the boss a few times in rapid succession, so it will still take practice to use this weapon, but this weapon is absolutely amazing. This is definitely what I would consider to be kind of almost a higher skill cap weapon, just because of the fact that in order to use a special ability, it's not like Comet Azura where you can just do a buff cycle and then blow something up. It's more so like you actually need to, you know, put buffs on yourself, get a bunch of hits in, and then be able to find the good opportunity to where you can even just hold down the beam on them. But it's definitely going to be very, very rewarding if you take the time to get good at using this weapon, because this weapon is extremely, extremely powerful. And remember, Lustrious really only lasts, I think, it seems like to me, from like 20 to 25 seconds. I haven't found an exact number on it, depending on like how long it's charged up. So keep that in mind, that you do have a time limit to use these special attacks. So again, it's just going to add to kind of the skill cap. But alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you next time. Enjoy using Euporia.